always thought slowing down would feel like a relief. But now that I have slowed down, it's more complicated than that. Some days I feel lost, like there are too many things to do and I don't know where to start. Some days feel empty, lonely, and unpurposeful. And some days feel amazing. This chapter of life is quieter, but that doesn't mean it's easier. I'm learning what it really means to let go of the hustle and who I am without it. I was constantly busy throughout my life, and I think I was just taking on more and more. And then now that I've decided to slow down, step back into semi-retirement, which I'm really happy to be doing, to have this opportunity, I am just finding that some days I struggle with it. What do I struggle with the most? 5 years ago, I was laid off, and that was during COVID. And while many people got laid off during that time, I couldn't help but feel like I was unwanted, that I all of a sudden had no purpose in life. And that was a struggle to all of a sudden be super busy at my advertising, job. And then the next thing I know, boom, not having that job. So that was a big transition for me. I realized that I didn't want to go back to advertising. I didn't want that life. I had been doing it for, over 30 years of being a graphic designer, art director. So I wanted to try something new. Also, I was laid off at about age 55 and just feeling, I don't know if it was ageism, perhaps, but feeling like I had enough of that life. So I looked into what other things that I can do, and that's when I hit upon my thrifting business. So I thrift vintage and modern clothing, and I sell it online on my eBay and Poshmark store. And that's when I started my YouTube channel. So I consider those my two jobs, and I worked really hard at trying to build my businesses up. So here is a sweater that I found at the Goodwill bins, and it's a really pretty one. The brand is called Cezanne. It was a little bit like shrunken down. It has some, I think, alpaca and wool in it. And so previous owner probably put it into the dryer. So I'm trying to block it and stretch it after I washed it. And hopefully, it has stretched out enough. Okay, so here's the sweater. It's a size large. I think I might have stretched it out a little too much at the waist. Probably is better if it's a little, I don't know. I'm not sure. I should look for a photo of like a model wearing this from the Cezanne website. But the sleeves are much better, and this detail is really, really pretty. It's actually like crocheted, and then this is lace up here, and this is a lace ruffle. So then it was about 9 months ago, my first grandbaby, Malia, was born. And I started to babysit her along with 2 other grandparents about 4 or 5 months ago. While it is really great babysitting, I love that feeling of taking care of Malia. She's wonderful. And it's so great to be a grandma. I was hit with all of a sudden having 3 jobs. And this is when I realized I had to make a shift and just make a decision. Do I keep babysitting? Do I let go of one of my jobs? Or do I just put less time into them both? And so that's what I decided to do. I actually have also been working with the other grandparents as well as, Kelsey and Justin as far as my schedule. So now I do have more of a set schedule, which has helped a lot. So I have kind of cut back on babysitting as well. Very helpful. Not quite there yet, but it's moving towards that direction. And so now I find myself having more time, which is what I wanted. I wanted to slow down and have more of a work-life balance. But what I discovered was that I'm missing that part of me that just hustled and grinded all the time, and that worked really hard, and that had multiple balls up in the air juggling. And I just felt like there was a void, or kind of like an emptiness. And I don't know if that's happened to you. If you found yourself transitioning, let's say, into semi-retirement or retirement, or perhaps you downsized, or maybe, all of a sudden you've found yourself living alone because, you're an empty nester, or maybe your partner, is no longer with you. Those kinds of big changes can be unsettling. I think it's almost like a jolt because it could be so different. And I think I'm kind of living in it right now. I had, for example, with my thrifting business, I used to have to thrift to find product, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. I had cut it back to going once every other week. I was listing up to 6 or 7 items a day, and then I went down to 1 item a day. And even then, it was a struggle to keep up with that, just, with everything going on. And as that happened, I could see my sales dropping. And, with YouTube, I was putting out a video every week, once a week. I missed it a couple times, but just a couple. And now I try to put out a video every other week. And so I do have this shift in how much I'm producing. And because I'm not producing as much, I'm not making as much money. And that was a way that I sort of found, I guess, put value on myself, like how much money I was making, that therefore I was good. And if I'm not making much money, then I'm bad. And I think this kind of can mess with my head. And, when you put worth on how much money you're making, it can kind of bring you down. And so I think I already made a very conscious choice to not go back into the advertising, industry. And from there, I knew I was going to make a huge pay cut because I was making really good money in advertising. It was a very crazy schedule. And, I worked a lot of hours. And I was just ready to cut back. And so having my own business, well, at least I have my own businesses. I have the freedom. I don't have a boss. I'm my boss. I can call the shots. I can, have as much of a balanced work life that I want. And what I found myself doing was going in and, grinding and working a lot of late hours, working weekends. And, at this time, my youngest daughter had graduated high school, moved away, and so I became an empty nester. So I had the more space to actually fill it with work. And then when Malia came along, and Malia is an interesting thing because she's almost like a work-life balance in itself. Because babysitting her on one hand is work, but spending time with her is life. You crawled all the way over there. Are you proud of yourself, Malia? Yes. Good job. Now that I'm 60, I do feel like my body is changing. I'm having a lot more physical issues come up. And so putting my health up front is really, really important. So that's been a good change. The other thing, and part of what's putting my health up front is, being better about exercising as well as eating better. So those two things I'm trying to prioritize as well. I love cabbage. So I like to have it pretty much all the time, just ready to go. Oops. And then this is just plain old ground beef, nothing special, but add that. This is a Japanese dish that I made, and it basically has some tofu, some ground beef, and some vegetables. So there, yeah. So that's what I have to warm up. And my eyes are big, so I'm getting big food. I don't think I mentioned this in my kitchen videos, but I put my microwave in this upper cabinet here. It also has some space for some storage for some pantry items. And I really like having my microwave tucked away in here. Maybe I have mentioned that. I'm not sure. Okay. And then I also have a Lazy Susan with some, I don't know, I guess like condiments and things. So I thought that adding cottage cheese, having a cottage cheese bowl was weird too, but I actually like it. It's adding a little bit more protein. It's kind of replacing rice for me. And I still eat rice, but I eat it more the wild rice mixed with some black rice or purple rice. And I don't eat rice very often. So what I like about this bowl is that it's taking a bunch of different components and putting it together, so they're different textures, and yeah, it's mainly like different textures, which makes everything more interesting. Like with the creaminess of the cottage cheese, you know, and the bite of the ground beef, the firmness, the chewiness, and then the crunch of the cabbage is really nice together. And then, you know, tofu, vegetables, like the raw onions and the green onions, again, adds more flavor and texture. The chili oil is nice. It's really subtle. It's not too spicy. Okay, so I have this nectarine, a white nectarine, some blueberries, a old mango, but I think it might be sweet. I also have a kind of an oldish banana over there, but cut the fruit because I don't want to eat all of this fruit in one sitting. Or maybe if I do eat all of it, it's fine, but not all at once. Let's see. Fruit has been doing a good job of, you know, satisfying my sweet tooth for a while. However, I have been craving, I don't know, more traditional sweet things like cookies and cakes and things like that. So I don't know. I had already washed these blueberries and I put them back in that case. Okay, so I think I want to add a little bit of stevia because this is just whole plain yogurt, and it has not been sweetened. Okay, I don't know, the brand is Nancy's. It says it's probiotic. Aren't all yogurts probiotic? I like to use this liquid stevia, and we get this over at Trader Joe's. 1, 2, 3, 8 drops might be good. See how that is. But yeah, so I've been craving, I don't know, like cakes, cookies, and things like that. I don't know what to do. So I try, you know, I don't know, I might try to make something kind of almost like a keto dessert before I just go crazy and buy a whole, I was tempted to buy a whole apple pie the other day, and I put it back because I thought, no, you don't need a whole apple pie. So instead I bought this little package of, I think they were cinnamon cookies, and they were supposedly made by like a bakery with like real butter and stuff like that. I mean, it still had a lot of sugar in it, but at least it wasn't a whole apple. Was it apple pie or, yeah, apple pie. So this is a really good dessert. It almost satisfies that sweet cravings that I have. For the most part, it does satisfy it. But I do miss that feeling of accomplishment that YouTube and my thrifting business gave me. And then when I just see everything slowing down and, I'm spending less time at it, I think also those two things, thrifting a little bit less, but definitely YouTube, it was helping me with my creativity. And perhaps that's another reason why I feel sort of a sense of loss. But at the same time, I could work on other things to fill that void. And that's one thing I wanted to talk to you about, is that it's so easy to hang on to an old identity of ourselves. When we don't have that anymore, we can feel lost. We can feel like almost like an imposter. We don't feel the same. And that can be hard. Like with all transitions, we are making shifts and changes in our lives. We are saying goodbye to a past identity of ourselves and putting on a new identity in a way. And so, this stage of my life, it's a lot slower. It's a lot gentler. And for me, I need to give myself time to settle into this new identity. I think also looking at what's important in this new chapter, in this new life of mine, what really is important, and make sure that everything is kind of equal, So if I'm spending too much time on work, then I have to notice that and pull up on that. Perhaps I need to take a trip or spend more time with friends and family. Perhaps I need to spend more time alone, or, make sure that I'm prioritizing health. So being just really aware of what's going on and the balance that's happening in my life and in our lives, right? I think also what will help is almost creating a schedule. Maybe it's okay, though. One standout thing that's helping me a lot right now is yoga. And for me to prioritize going to my yoga classes is very important right now. And yoga ticks off so many different boxes for me. It helps my health. It helps me slow down and enjoy this slower pace. It makes me feel more comfortable being in a slower pace and being more in the present, which is a challenge. And physically, it really helps me with certain aches and pains. So yoga is super important. So that is something that I need to schedule into my week, make sure that I prioritize it. And if I miss it, I better have a really good reason for missing it. So if I don't have a lot of challenges in my life, I can kind of just sit back and almost like get lazy. And I know it's not quite laziness, but then I might take more time of, relaxing. I might take more breaks. I might watch more YouTube videos. I've been really enjoying watching YouTube shorts, and I know that's terrible for my attention span. And it also, it's this constant dopamine hit, right? And then I find myself being addicted to wanting more and more. And what happens is I'm wasting time for getting, let's say, my work done or something like that. And then if I get my work done, it takes longer, then it eats into my time being with my family, or, you know, spending time cooking something healthy, or, you know, going to a yoga class, that kind of thing. So I think that will be another challenge for me, is cutting back on screen time, let's say. Also, a big one is being grateful or showing gratitude for what I have, for my life that I have right now. I am grateful, but sometimes I lose sight of who I am and what I have. And I think that's a big thing, because that's where, you know, comparing ourselves with others kind of falls into place. How can we compare ourselves with others when we're grateful for what we have? I think that's huge. I also think, how can we have imposter syndrome when we're grateful for who we are? So that's something to keep front and center all the time. So recently I built a new kitchen here in my granny flat, and I love it. I really do. I'm so happy that I have this kitchen now. And you know, it's funny to think that I went without a kitchen for 5 years. I'm trying to really appreciate having this kitchen. I think about how it was before I had it, and how difficult it was to even make a cup of coffee. So that helps a lot. And it gives me the feeling like, again, you know, I like some challenge. So what's happening is I'm trying to cook more. I'm also trying like new recipes, and that's also been helping, I think, with my creativity and the fact that I need challenge. Many of us have shaped our identity around struggle, whether it was work, caregiving, or proving our worth. But maybe the next chapter of our lives is unshaping a little and seeing who we are without all the striving.